I have signs in my body that tell me if I've taken on energy that doesn't belong to me. And that is usually all of a sudden I'm in a really good mood during the day, and all of a sudden I feel completely drained. Suddenly comes on a complete change of mood or change of feeling. Mostly it's feeling drained. Then I know.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com and, of course, from UnderstandingAutoimmune.com. And as always, it's my honor and privilege to be with you here today on another brand new episode. And I'm so excited to have Sharon Carne from the Sound Wellness Institute back with us, because she's got an exciting new class out. And when I heard about it, I was like, oh my goodness, where were you decades ago? So I'm really excited to have her, but let me read her bio. And yes, guys, I have given in to the idea that I have to get closer to the screen to read bios. So apologies for coming in real close here, but I'm going to read her bio so I get it right, because she's amazing. And it's Sharon Carne. She's a best-selling author, international speaker, musician, recording artist, master sound healer, mother, grandmother, and evolving elder. I love that. She founded Sound Wellness in 2008 after participating as a facilitator in a study on stress through the Integrative Health Institute at Mount Royal University. And in 2017, the Sound Wellness Institute was born, and she is absolutely recognized internationally for her professional training for holistic practitioners who receive high levels of competency and understanding how sound helps you heal. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, though, was this wonderful post that she recently put out about energetic boundaries. Now, we've talked on the show about boundaries before, which is like the ability to say no when you want to say no, patient advocacy boundaries, how to set boundaries and talk to your healthcare providers. We've done a lot of that. We've also talked about highly sensitive people. And so today we're going to combine both of those and understand highly sensitive people and energetic boundaries. And I have to say that I don't know, there's probably a study out on it, but I know in the 10 years plus of doing the show, I have noticed that a large number of our courage conversation, people who come, they're the thrivers, the survivor to thriver stories that we sometimes have on the show. I'd say the majority of them are highly sensitive people. So like I said, this is a science of Sharon, but I think people that are more sensitive oftentimes end up with some sort of condition. I don't know if that's holding it in or what, but that's the science of Sharon. And now we'll get into the other Sharon. Welcome, Sharon. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Sharon. This is a big topic, and I love that you've asked me to return and talk about this. It's just, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, and I'm thrilled because I couldn't think of anybody better. I know that you are highly sensitive yourself, and I put myself in that class too. Sometimes you hear community, you might hear HSP. I prefer the whole word instead of the acronym. I don't know why, but I do. And anyway, Sharon, describe to us what a highly sensitive person is, because I have found a lot of people who end up with some sort of medical condition fall somewhere on that spectrum.
Oh gosh, yeah. I can maybe start with a story, Sharon, if that's okay, because we were talking about this a moment ago. And I think I've always known I've been sensitive, but never really acknowledged it until I was probably in my 40s. And I had a very busy studio of teaching through the conservatory. I taught classical guitar for many years. And there was a period of time where I had so many students come in, and every once in a while, a child would come in with a headache or a stomach ache, and I'd double check with the parents that they didn't need any medical attention or regular attention to end the lesson. And we go on with the lesson. They would leave feeling great, and I would have the stomach ache or the headache. Well, that happened way too many times to have me finally realize this isn't a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. What is it that about what is it that makes me take on their symptoms? I've probably always been doing this, but now it was becoming more conscious. And at the same time, probably the week or the week, 2 weeks after I started making this realization myself, Sharon, there was an article in the Calgary Herald that said, "Are you an empath?" Boy, that changed my life. Are you an empath? That's another word for highly sensitive person. And it's like I read that there are lists that are available online in a lot of different areas, empathic qualities and sensitivities. And so I went down the list and it's like, yep, okay. Now I got to learn what an empath is and then how to manage and say no to somebody else's headache. How do I do that? Was a learning that took a while. So going back to the qualities, I have a list of 30 of them. Do you want me to go through some of them?
Sure, let's hit some of the highlights.
Okay. So you just know. Sometimes your things are going on and you just know an answer. It's an inner knowing.
I was talking to my acupuncturist about this recently because I can tell them where the points are. Sometimes they're poking around with their finger trying to find the point. I went right there.
Yeah.
Because you're the only person I know who can do that. I thought everybody could do that. I was
No.
born that way. And when you say you just know, maybe like you had that moment where you had an aha moment. I had an aha moment about 30 years ago. And that was the aha moment. But the aha moment was not so much the just knowing came later. It was, you mean not everybody does this? Oh, I just know.
Yes. Here are some of the other characteristics too. Being overwhelmed in public places. How do you feel when you're in a crowded mall or at a football game or when you're in a crowd of people? How does it feel? It feels overwhelming. And so many, those who are highly sensitive really have difficult time with large crowds.
What's unfair about that, Sharon, is
Mhm.
I'm thinking about Western medicine. And the two words came up for me. Oh, you're just an introvert, get over it. Or, oh, you have anxiety, here's a pill.
Oh, yeah. And not really good solutions for those who are
No,
highly sensitive.
exactly. But
Very
this
close.
is where I think it's hard to define highly sensitive people in a way other than as we go through this list, you're just going to know. And I'm hoping it's a relief to you to understand there's nothing wrong with you. There's a lot of us out there.
Yes, absolutely. Another quality is you feel everything, you feel other people's emotions. And part of that is that high sensitivity also makes you a very good listener. How many times have you been sitting in a restaurant or on a park bench and the stranger has sat beside you and started to tell you their life story? I've had that happen more times than I can count.
I don't know if I have something on my forehead that just says, talk to me. It's like, and the other thing that happens is going to networking events. In a way, this is good because it's always a good impression. You ask one question besides the what's your name kind of thing, and then you're listening and it's just gone and on. And then all of a sudden, 5, 10 minutes go by and they walk off. They go, well, and they'll say, well, this has been a fantastic conversation. And you're like, I didn't say much. It's great for
Yes.
networking because they think you're awesome, but you're like, okay. That was a one-way conversation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. And another aspect of this is so there's so much to part of that. For those who are highly sensitive are often drawn to alternative methods of healing, or not alternative as an alternate to medicine. Complementary might be the better word. Complementary methods of healing that complement what you're doing, holistic therapies. And things like essential oils, and that can be so supportive. And sound is one of the things I love, of course. And tapping is another thing. There's so many holistic modalities that really support us. And that is one of the qualities those who are highly sensitive usually end up in those fields. Also, love of nature and finding that when you're feeling overwhelmed, is that nature really replenishes you at a very deep level. I think just about every human being is replenished when they go into nature. However, those who are highly sensitive, really, if they're feeling overwhelmed, then nature can really help support shifting to feeling more fulfilled with life force energy.
Oh, absolutely. My family knows take me to the beach.
Yeah,
If I'm drained, if I'm whatever, go like a puppy, go walk around the sand.
yes.
Let her breathe that ocean wavy air and all of that. It's
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yeah. For me, even it just going back and putting my back against one of our apple trees in the backyard or sitting on the grass, something that connects you to the earth is just so helpful. And then as part of that too, it's needing solitude, needing to just be by yourself to process, to decompress a busy day. That alone time for me has always been essential. If I don't get it, I start going into more of the mental health challenges or overwhelm or more stress, anxiety kinds of feelings, which I don't like. And so then it's okay, Sharon, when was the last time you sat and just read a book or did some meditation or sat on the grass and watched the clouds go by? When was the last time you had alone time? It's something that for me is a boundary in a way that needs to be an important part of my day is time to be by myself, even if I'm up earlier or stay up later.
oh, absolutely. My family knows that about me. And luckily, I have a family that also has their own energetic boundaries. Not all of them, my family members are empathic. It's about respect in my mind, about, okay, that's just the way they are. Let them recharge and come back out, pop up a whole new person again. You know?
Yep,
Okay,
that's me.
that battery's drained. You're going to plug it into the wall like your cell phone's drained. Go let them plug themselves into a tree and come on back.
Yeah, I wish I that made me picture a chord much like that, Sharon.
Well,
Oh,
it's funny. I have a lot of oak trees on my property, and I know this sounds weird. I love to just stand there and water them.
mhm.
Especially, I don't do it in the winter, obviously, but in the summer, it's so calming for me just to be watering my garden and my trees. And so I guess that's where the cord came because I got this hose, right? But anyway, I love the connection that they get. But I think for me, where we're talking about energetic boundaries, is having people in your world that respect, like, oh, that's just Sharon. Let her go. Doesn't mean anything. They're not avoiding you. Doesn't mean anything. You didn't do nothing. Just let them go and they'll come back.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one other thing that can sometimes be part of a mindfulness routine to know whether or not you've taken any energy on. For me, as a physical empath, I have signs in my body that tell me if I've taken on energy that doesn't belong to me. And that is usually all of a sudden I'm in a really good mood during the day, and all of a sudden I feel completely drained suddenly comes on a complete change of mood or change of feeling. Mostly it's feeling drained. Then I know I start asking the question, okay, what has come into my body and feel that isn't me? And how do I let go of that? And it is when you're working in the public or doing teaching and things like that, often there are connections made that can be really feel draining. As human beings, we often connect to each other. In the holistic field, it's called creating a cord of connection. And that cord of connection is like it's like a vacuum cleaner hose. Energy can be sucked one way or another. And sometimes if one of these cords of energy is attached, it can be draining your energy. And this is something that is important for holistic healers or those in holistic field is to make sure their energy is very clear and to have a lot of ways to keep your energy clear and strong so that you notice if there's a drain in your energy. If that makes sense, it's a little bit out there as far as having scientific If you're suddenly being drained, then there's a reason for it.
Right. And if you're still on the fence about whether this is real or not, just take a moment to be open to the idea. And next time you're wandering around and you get some sort of feeling or something like that seems foreign to you, just be open to the idea. Is it possible that I just picked up something that's not mine? That's not me. I think that's the important thing, is just being open to going, well, isn't that interesting? This seems foreign, or I don't know why all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed with this feeling here.
Very much. It's that feeling of being completely drained that has been a big signal for me. And then there's the question, the one of the most important questions you were alluding to, Sharon, is this mine? Is a question I use all the time. When I notice one of those triggers in my energy, something has affected my energy. Is this mine? I noticed in the last few years as I've been growing myself and understanding myself more, even driving along the roads in Calgary, I can sense the energy of where a car accident might have happened, because there is, to me, it's like a cloud of trauma and fear and all of those things, those high emotions that happen when there's a car accident, huge, difficult situation. And so that energy can stay in that area where a car accident was. And so I can sometimes feel that as I'm driving through. If I'm driving along the road, especially at intersections where a lot of these happen, and then all of a sudden I just feel this huge surge of fear in my heart. Then I ask the question, is this mine? Is this an accident that just happened here? Your heart will always give you an answer. I always ask my heart, not my brain. I ask my heart for an answer. If my heart says, this isn't yours, this was a trauma that happened in this intersection, then I just send a prayer to those people who were involved in that accident. And if it feels like a very heavy cloud at that intersection, sometimes there can be a lot of accidents at certain intersections that all add on to each other. And so I just ask for a prayer to help release that energy from the space. And that has been one thing that I found for me has been very helpful, to just release the energy from me. And it's not mine. Okay, I can just let it go, let it drain out through my feet.
I just want to add on that we've had Sarah Payton and others on. We had Dr. Tepanky on the other day about this, and a few other guests, where the other question I always ask when I get that feeling, I ask, is this mine? But I also remind my autonomic nervous system in that moment, like I'm just driving and all of a sudden I get that feeling. Okay, is this mine? No. Then I work to tell my autonomic nervous system, we're safe here. Because I notice that it goes into hyper alert with, oh, what's this odd feeling I'm picking up? Am I safe? And so to me, it's a two-step process. The first is the acknowledgement. And then, well, I guess it's a three-step process, the acknowledgement, and then checking in and telling my autonomic nervous system, breathe deep, you're fine. You don't have to hold your breath here. You're okay. Talk my autonomic nervous system off the ledge and then release it. But I feel like for me, I have to tell my nervous system, because it doesn't know time and it doesn't know place or energy. It just knows it felt something scary and it's overreacting. And so for me, it's like a three-step process of acknowledgement, kind words to myself about appreciating that I picked it up, but also that it's not mine to hold, and then breathing and letting it go.
Oh, I love that. And especially just calming down the autonomic nervous system and giving it this message. Thank you. That's awesome.
Well, that's many years of having trauma experts on the show who taught me to do that, especially that question of telling my autonomic nervous system, am I safe? And honestly, there have been times where I haven't felt safe, like my spidey sense is up instead of just knowing it's not, we're going through this place where there's been a trauma. But my spidey sense is up, and I'm like, then you're telling your autonomic nervous system, thank you very much. Let's just stay like at mild alert. We don't need to be calling the fire trucks, but let's just be on mild alert. But that's a whole combination of being able to talk to ourselves and let ourselves know when we're safe. Because oftentimes it's a gut response. It's like, okay, last time this happened 22 years ago, because it's unconscious brain doesn't know time. And you're like, okay, I'm not the same person I was 22 years ago. I'm okay now.
Yeah, yeah, I love that part, just so love that part. There's a funny story with letting it go because it's an energy, it's non-local, it's nebulous. How do we let energy go? And sometimes it helps to have some sort of a trigger for to help the body remember or an image to help the body let an energy go. And I had a funny experience with my hairdresser many years ago. She's such an empath, natural healer. She's now a Reiki master and is an amazing hairdresser. As I came in to get my hair done, and she looked so heavy. Her energy felt so heavy. And I said, "What's going on? Something's going on." And that's my knowing. And she just looked and felt so heavy. And she said, "Well, I have been sitting in the hospital with two of my friends. One of them has just had a hip replacement. The other one is very seriously ill with cancer." She was sitting by the bedside, consciously taking their pain into her body. And I said, "Well, I'm not sure that's appropriate.
Yes.
However, bless your
Or
heart,
healthy.
yeah, it's not appropriate." And I said, "Have you got a way to let that go?" And she said, "I don't know how." And so she had been putting goop on my hair at that point. And so I got up and put her in the chair. And I said, "Well, I'm going to put my hands on your shoulders and start a Reiki flow to help allow your body to let that energy go." And as soon as I did that, in about 10 seconds, we both started howling with laughter, Sharon. We both got the same image at the same time. It was a toilet flush.
Oh, that's pretty
It
good.
was like there's a lever at the ear, and the image is a vortex. When you watch water go down the drain, when you finished washing the dishes, it always goes down in a vortex, in a spiral. And a spiral is a huge clearing image. So we both got an image of this drain pipe in the center of the body, and there was a big vortex going down the center that just immediately drained everything. So after we finished laughing, she just stood up and said, "It's gone now. You go in the chair."
That's the thing. It's gone now. It's a totally different. Oftentimes people say something is here with me type of thing. And
Mhm.
I love the toilet image because my image has always been, if you do that, there's a lot of permission involved in that as well. But if you do that, it's more that being a conduit instead of a vessel.
Mhm.
The idea that if a conduit, something flows through the pipe and out the other end, then the vessel that ends up storing it all, because that's A, not healthy, and B, not your job.
Yes, that's another example of an energetic boundary for sure.
So what are some others? This is fascinating. People could just going check, check, check.
Oh my. I think we've covered some of the main characteristics of empaths just in our conversation. And I wanted to share a book that I have, though, Sharon. I brought it off the bookshelf because I found this one so helpful. And this one is called The Empath Survival Guide by Dr. Judith Orloff. She's a psychiatrist, and she goes through characteristics of an empath, types of empaths, some who connect with animals, nature, the planet. Many people feel earthquakes in their bodies, for example, and that is a nature empath as far as how she qualifies them. It's a wonderful book to give a lot. It gives a lot of tools on how to manage boundaries in everyday life too, in addition to how do I just start to understand how this energy is flowing in and out of my body and what to do with it.
So if we've checked off all the boxes and maybe we're a little more advanced, and yet we're still bumping into these energetic boundaries, what are some of the tips that you give in your class for people to understand? A, first acknowledge it's an energetic boundary, and then B, Is the word protect? That doesn't sound like the right word to me, but to protect yourself from being enveloped with
Mhm.
these energies.
There are a lot of people who do, and I was taught how to do this also in some of the modalities I've learned over the years in creating what's called a shield. I imagine it as a golden bubble that in a way it's like a bubble. Our own biofield is like a bubble of energy around us that interacts constantly with the larger field. And that bubble can be worked with consciously, that biofield energy. And just imagining it as a golden bubble, gold is a color that has a very high vibration. Some people will give different colors. It's almost the outside skin of our own biofield in order to help keep some of this energy from coming in and out. But our biofield is a communication structure. It's not really a structure, but it's a communication entity. HeartMath has discovered the brain and the nervous system is a receiver and transmitter, and it sends out signals and it receives in signals. And a lot of that comes in and out through the biofield. And our biofield, this energy that comes from our atoms and electrons and physical processes and energetic processes in the body, it creates that biofield, and it's intimately connected not only with the body but also with the larger zero point field. And how do we create a boundary between that? We create it with our imagination, but it's a constant flow of energy from everything to here and then out. In a way, a challenging thing when we imagine how deeply connected we are to everything and the information available in everything.
To me, challenging is an interesting word. To me, it was surprising or startling. For me, I didn't particularly see it as a challenge other than to be consistent with it. When I was first learning about this idea, and it did resonate with me immediately when someone told me about, they envisioned like a golden eggshell around me, but I like yours because a bubble's usually transparent. Whatever works for you. But I was hesitant. I was like open to the idea because I love ideas and I love abstract ideas. But a part of me was still like, huh, say what? I like to think of this idea of just playing with it. And whether you want to be Doctor Strange and put your hands out, shields up, or whatever that is, or the Harry Potter with the invisible cloak, go for it. Just play with it and see what happens. To me, it's one of the fantastic things about healing, and especially understanding our energies, is just playing with it instead of getting so wrapped up and so particular about it, because everybody is different. That's the one thing I've found. You ask someone to describe how they protect themselves or do they have an energy field, and they'll describe it very differently from what your idea, what my concept of it is. And so that's always fascinating to me.
Oh, I find that too very fascinating. There's another aspect of this that I could share that for me is more of a mindfulness practice, and it has to do with resonance. I have my box here and a tuning fork. I can explain a little bit about resonance with the box and the tuning fork.
That could be the title of a book. Let's go for it. The box and the tuning fork.
Yeah, a box that would be fascinating. Yeah, I love that. So this is just an empty wooden box. I took everything out that was in here, and I have a couple of tuning forks here. I have one longer one and one slightly shorter one that has a higher sound. Now, everything in existence, everything is moving, and everything that's moving has it's vibrating, it's moving, so it has a resonance, it has a sound in a way, even if that vibration is within our hearing range or not within our hearing range. That movement is a measurement of its activity. There, throughout the electromagnetic spectrum, there are a lot of measurements of the activity of different kinds of energies and light and materials. So this box has a resonance that sounds like this. That's its natural sound, its natural resonance. This is the sound of the wood when I knock my knuckles on the wood.
You
Now,
know what's fascinating to me was my autonomic nervous system wanted to go answer the door. I'm sorry.
Of course.
I got totally distracted the time you heard it, and then you said a few things, and then I heard it again, and my autonomic nervous system had left the room. It was
Oh,
like,
that's
"Answer the
hilarious,
door."
Sharon. I won't knock
Sorry
at
to
it.
interrupt there, I'm back.
That's awesome. Okay, so we have the knock on the door, and then we have the natural sound of the tuning fork. So let me tap it and bring it over to the microphone here. So you can hear that sound okay?
Mhm.
That is 256 hertz. It has a specific measurement. Now, resonance is the influence of one sound or one thing on another thing. So here we have the box, and here we have the tuning fork. No, let me try it with the other one. That was a very light sound. The box, when I placed the tuning fork on the box, the whole box was resonating instead of to that, it was resonating to 256 hertz, which means every molecule in this box was moving at the rate of 256 hertz, or that vibration. Now, if I place 384 on here,
It's very faint, but you
it's
can
very,
hear it's duller. No, it's not duller. It's definitely
there's
a
a,
different sound.
so every molecule of this box is now resonating to 384 hertz. So the molecules are moving faster. And the same thing happens if I place that tuning fork on me. That means every atom of my body is now resonating to 384 hertz. So everything has shifted from its natural vibration to this vibration. It can be the same kind of reaction with feelings and the same kind of response in nature, for example, or a crowded place. If we're in a crowded mall, there is one feeling of resonance which affects our nervous system very specifically. And then if we go into the forest, there's another kind of resonance of the energy of the forest that shifts our resonance to more match the energy of the forest. If we are in the presence of a person who has a habit of complaining, I know this is where a boundary for me has been really important. My energy shifts into that negative mindset very easily, and then I find myself going into that same pattern of thinking. If I'm around someone who has a very positive mindset, then my whole being goes into that pattern of thinking with a positive mindset. That human beings are natural resonators, and we will resonate to the influences around us or match that. Thoughts are very similar, especially really emotional thoughts like worry, which is magnified by fear. So, a worry energy is an energy of fear, and fear has a resonance that affects our nervous system. Compassion has another resonance that affects our nervous system. It's like our nervous system is a tuning fork, and many of these other things will tune our nervous system or our body or our molecules to that frequency or that thought field or that energy of the forest. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating to me is, like a virus, you can pick it up easier than you think.
Oh my gosh.
Now, sometimes if I'm in a crowded mall, I can, when I was first starting it out, protect myself for a little bit. I could maintain for a little bit. But I found with a particular person, this was years ago, a friend, and then I didn't realize their energy was always about the negative. Like the waitress was bad, the food was bad, whatever. Everything was always, there was something wrong with everything. And oh, being the jolly myself, trying to be a supportive friend and talk them out of it. But I realized after, well, I won't say I realized, another friend pointed it out, that it was about 3 months into that was, gee, you used to be always so upbeat and now everything's negative. And that was interesting to me how over time the negative became me at the time. I was so thankful for my other friend who pointed it out, and I had to limit my time with that other person because it was just, for whatever reasons, my boundary was to limit my time with them. I know some people might say, well, that's not fair. You should have just learned to shield yourself better. But at the time, in my evolution of understanding, it was like I could only have my shields up so long. And so my solution was to still be friends, but limit my time with them and also have the conscious realization that their negativity is not the way I want to be in the world.
Powerful mindfulness and powerful boundary. Absolutely. And I agree with you that the shields take a lot of energy, that the boundary is more important. The mindfulness to understand what's going on with me when I'm resonating with an energy that I'm not noticing. Thank heavens for the friends also for me that will tell me, hey, Sharon, what's going on?
Exactly. Sometimes it's not that nice, but I still take it as information. I was unaware that I had become as negative as the other person. And luckily, it wasn't ingrained or embedded. It was when my other friend pointed it out, it was a moment of, oh, I know exactly where that I'll put in air quotes because I didn't get sick, but that virus, that mind virus came from.
Mhm. And I love how you describe it as a mind virus because it's not the person. It's a habit or a pattern that they have resonated with that they may not be aware with. The resonance is such a powerful way to use as a tool in our mindfulness. So I'm my being, it's not who you are. It's something you're resonating with.
Absolutely. And one of the things I'm resonating with is that we're up against the clock for a quick commercial break. So everyone take this time, just let it sink in, check in with yourself, see how you're feeling, where your boundaries are. And when we come back, we'll talk more with Sharon Carne about energetic boundaries and some of the steps we can take, including as we come into resonance with ourselves, understanding what that is. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I am so happy to be here with my dear friend Sharon Carne. She is the founder and key facilitator of Sound Wellness Institute, as well as the amazing teacher of Energetic Boundaries. It's a course for people, mostly highly sensitive people, but anyone can join. You might be surprised how sensitive you really are. I've met people who hang around with me a while and all of a sudden they go, well, I didn't used to be like this, but thanks a lot. Now I feel it all.
Oh my goodness, Sharon.
I take it as a compliment. It's like, I used to be able to walk through the world and not think about the energy of the city or the space or whatever. Thanks a lot for pointing out it exists. Sorry. So, what if someone's new to this? And we've talked a little bit about boundaries. What are some other things you have for people to understand and to learn to? This sounds so rude. I'll say learn to deal with it.
Learn to deal with it is also really important. It starts with knowing yourself. It starts with knowing the flow of information and chatter that goes on in the mind. And sometimes we can learn about how we're being affected by what's going on in the chatter. The ego chatter that goes on, especially, which is the fearful chatter. Sometimes that takes more precedence in the mind, or we give it more territory in the mind than it actually deserves.
Well, it's a
And
big bully. It just comes roaring in and sits down and wants to stay around. What are you going to do?
absolutely, it's understanding the bully for what it is. It's a part of the personality connected to the sympathetic nervous system that's trying to keep you safe. That's okay. It'll warn you about this or that, and then you say thank you, and then move away from it. It also will trigger emotional responses. And so, knowing those patterns, also learning to understand your own patterns, being mindful of those things when you start feeling really drained and asking the questions, how often do I feel drained? And then, of course, that most important question is mine, is absolutely a huge question to ask.
Well,
And
besides
then,
the how, though,
mm,
I want to also throw in the when, because sometimes, as we've been alluding to, may not be your stuff. So every time you go through that one intersection, meet that one friend for dinner, whatever it is, besides the how, throw in the when.
oh gosh, the win is stronger energy. It's being you. It's growing and evolving and understanding yourself at a level that brings you back into that divine human essence that's at the heart of every single one of us. Every single one of us is an amazing divine being. And we forget that when we come down here, this planet, and we learn all our lessons. We have all these challenges that bring us ways of growing and learning. And it's so easy to forget that we have a divine essence within our being that is at the core of our being that nothing can ever change or nothing can ever affect it. And when you allow or when you identify with that divine essence, and some people call it soul or spirit or higher self or source, that divine essence, when you identify it more than with the ego chatter and the bully, then things start shifting in your perceptual field into a more understanding of how, when we're perceiving something or seeing something, we are actually interpreting that. That wisdom in understanding the patterns of interpretation that we are perceiving or seeing our world with brings huge ways to returning to more yourself, that divine essence of who you are. As you discover a pattern, oh, I've been seeing this as this with this negative resonance, and I can choose to see this as this with a more compassionate way of seeing things. That we always have a choice in how we perceive our world. For me, that's the biggest win, is that connection with that inner divine essence.
Absolutely. And giving yourself permission to go there. I don't know about you, but I was raised in an ultra religious family. And even this idea of inner self, whatever, had a totally different definition than what I have now of how my world works, and understanding that other people have a definition of how their world works. And I think it's important to know yourself and honor yourself and give yourself permission to be yourself. But that doesn't mean too often people say that and then all of a sudden you have to be just like them. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not how this game works.
Uh-huh.
Giving
Absolutely.
yourself permission to be you, but that also reflects that in this world, in my world, that also reflects that you have permission to be you over there. If I give myself permission here, I also have to give permission over there. That's how this reciprocity thing works.
I can share one example of a practical way that I found to use that in that divine essence or your own beingness that you connect with. When you know your energy is strong, I'm me, sitting in my energy that feels strong, that feels me, that doesn't feel like there's any interference. And that is a remembrance. That is an energy that you can use. For example, there was years ago, there was one time at the grocery store, I'm at the cashier, my groceries are going through, and a person comes up behind me who must have had a huge fight with his wife or kids. The energy in his biofield was vibrant with anger, and I could feel it starting to move through my biofield and into the back of my heart. I could feel it start to move into my body. And I thought, that is not appropriate. So I went into that remembrance. I went into my heart. I went into that remembrance of me while she's running all my groceries through, and allowed it to expand. This is me. This is my energy. There's an interference coming in. He's allowed to be angry. We all have those situations in our lives that we work with. So as I expanded my own energy and my own remembrance of my energy when it's strong, I imagined it pushing his energy out of the back of my heart and out of my field. I made my field fairly small, and we can expand and contract our biofield. That's within our imaginative skills. And so I imagined the energy staying strong on the back of my body, giving him permission to be angry and giving me permission to be in my energy without us doing this and interweaving through my body.
Wow.
So that is how I used that memory of my energy in a practical situation when I felt an intrusion. And this is normal everyday experience. Often people go through emotional states. We're emotional beings and that energy is in our field. And so that energy in the field can affect other people. That doesn't mean that person can be allowed to go through that, of course. However, it doesn't have to go through me. So I just strengthened my own energy and pushed it out.
And it goes somewhere else. That's the thing to remember. Also, I like to thank my system for noticing it right away. I think to me that's very powerful to, as that part of, we've talked about letting your body know, okay, yeah, something just, oh, wow, that feels angry in your case. That story was about somebody being angry. My first thoughts are to thank my body for noticing it. Oh,
Mm.
okay, this isn't me. Thank you for bringing that to my attention because I want that part of me, my spidey sense, to to know that I appreciate it because you don't know if you'd been in an alley, it could be a totally different story. So I like to thank my body when I get these senses, these sensations, like, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm in the grocery line. I've looked around. Everything's pretty safe. Yeah, he's probably going through his thing over there, but it's not a danger to me. And then my body's able to uh, move it out, move it on. I always like to have some gratitude because I want that spidey sense to stay strong. I don't want it to think like, oh, you have told me you've pushed these energies out and not acknowledged. So I want that spidey sense to stay strong within me.
I love that. Thank you, Sharon. I love that.
We've got about, oh, 4 minutes left. Time is just flying by. What are some final tips you want to share? And then I know that the class has already started, but it's a 21-day challenge, so people can join at any time.
The connection we have to the universal field is so porous. And I think we've already mentioned so many of the tips. And I love what you're saying about the acknowledgement of the nervous system. I guess one important part of this too is to know your energy when it's strong. Whenever you've had a massage or whenever you've had an holistic therapy treatment where you're feeling strong, or whenever you've been sitting watching the waves come in at the seashore, whenever you've been in the forest for a while and you feel balanced and strong, remember that. That is a benchmark for you. And then as energy flows in through and around you, having that benchmark helps you give you the information that something isn't quite feeling right here, and then asking the questions about it.
I love that. And let's just quickly go over the questions again so people can begin to integrate this.
And we need to add in yours. So the first thing is something doesn't feel right. Is this mine?
The "is this mine" to me is really the important question. The second part of that would be to honor it, whether it's mine or not.
And then thank the nervous system for recognizing and also acknowledging that you're safe.
I think that's really important because that allows the nervous system to feel more deeply and more completely. It's not worried. It's not whenever my nervous system feels unsafe, it's a contraction. The thing about feeling my energetic boundaries, it's more of an expansion or a placement of something, but it's certainly not a contraction.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then, is there a tool I can use in order to help me go back to my strong resonance, whether that's going into the memory of it in the heart and expanding that? You can use other practical things like smudge, crystals, oils. There's mantra is one of my favorites because that shifts the mind, as mantra is a tuning fork, and that shifts your resonance to a very sacred energy. And if something is intruding in, that feels it has an intrusion. There have been a few times when I've had to challenge, but request also that shifting the energy to that higher vibration using any of those tools, the smudge, crystals, oils, there's so many of them, tapping, mantra.
One of my favorites that's very acceptable, and you can do without anybody noticing. I know this sounds weird, that brings me back to my center every time, is a big swig of really cold water.
Oh, that's fabulous and so practical.
Exactly. And so socially acceptable. So there's something about a big swig of really cold water that all of a sudden your whole body just focuses on that, and then you can recenter yourself. But it's this little moment of recentering by focusing only on all of a sudden my whole body just got invaded by this cold thing. What's happening?
Oh,
But
I love that. Yeah, so practical. You can certainly do that in a restaurant with a friend.
oh, absolutely. Almost anywhere. And it's a fun one I use with my clients too. As you know, I help people understand public speaking. And one of the things is, well, I'm always afraid when I'm public speaking. I said, take a plastic water bottle, one that you can feel that kind of sweats and everything. Make sure it's ice cold. Take it on the stage with you. And if you're getting those moments where you need more oxygen to the brain, you're getting a little nervous, whatever, either put the water bottle on your wrist or just stop and take a big drink of cold water, and it will refocus your public speaking as well.
Oh,
It's
that's
just a great way to
fabulous.
recenter yourself really quick. And as you said, so healthy too.
Yes.
So tell us, we've in that just the last 2 or 3 minutes, tell us more about understanding energetic boundaries, this 21-day challenge that you have.
It's an opportunity to do some investigation with these questions we've talked about, to do some journaling. There are 3 classes on 3 Sundays, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, which are live Zoom classes where we talk about different aspects related to energetic boundaries. And then in between, there's a Facebook group where there's a different journaling question every single day. There is also a journal online in the Facebook group you can download in order to write down your responses or write them in your own journal or write them on the post in the Facebook group. As we share, we learn so much from each other. And it's an opportunity to grow your awareness with energy and how it affects you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sharon. We'll have the link to how they can find it in the description here. If you're watching it on YouTube, just check below in the description. We'll have the link. Or if you're listening to this on any of the audio formats, just go over to understandingautoimmune.com and it will be right there under the episodes with Sharon. So it's a fairly long link, guys. So just check it out, and it's fantastic. And I know I'm a little late to the game. I found out about it afterwards, but I wanted to share this with you, everyone, because I know Sharon repeats it periodically. And it's really important for you that if you have questions about yourself and understanding, like maybe you've always felt slightly different, or people tell you're too sensitive, whatever, maybe you are, and that's not a bad thing. So join the crowd over here with other HSPs, and know that if you are wondering about it, that like I said, this is a science of Sharon. When I opened, this is the science of Sharon. I have noticed that a large part of our audience do self-identify as somewhere on the spectrum of either being empath or highly sensitive person. And so Sharon, thank you so much for sharing with us all about what is an energy field. And I want to confirm with you that I think a lot of people think, oh, that can't be real. I thought that decades ago, and the more I explored, the more I realized it's very real. We're all attuned to nature. We're all attuned to this world, the whole thing. It's all interconnected, even if though we can't see it. Thank you, Sharon, for joining us. That's Sharon Carne from Sound Wellness Institute. And Sharon, what's the URL for the Sound Wellness Institute?
Soundwellnessinstitute.com.
Well, there you go. That's pretty simple. I thought it was that, but I just wanted to make sure. So check out all of Sharon's other opportunities and classes and her amazing work. And she's been on the show before where she's taught us all about sound bath, as well as the wonderful Tibetan singing bowls that she has. So check out those over at understandingautoimmune.com as well. Have a great week, whatever your adventures, and join us next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.